Hey everyone, and welcome back to episode 2 of the Mario Kart inspired Dark Ride. Now, as I'm talking right now, the contest has actually ended and people are starting to vote on the plots. Sadly, not too many contestants this round, sadly, but hopefully in the future there will be more again. So yeah, that means that in this episode we are actually going to be finishing this Mario Kart inspired Dark Ride. So yeah, just to clarify before we get started, of course, we know that Universal may have some plans to build a Mario Kart Dark Ride, or at least is building one. This ride is not based on that. This is just my own interpretation of such a concept. So that's basically what I'm working on in this very episode as well. Just like the last episode. Already kind of explained that in the last episode as well. But just in case you're new to this, just so you know. So this is going to be a slot car, a slot car type Dark Ride basically. And I was already kind of thinking about how I would actually get that detail of this slot in the center of the track into Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 as well. Because that's going to be pretty, that's a bit of a challenge because you can't really make a gap into the track. So in the end, what I ended up with is with the mini suspended coaster, just basically putting it down in the center of the track. It does stick out instead of it being a gap inside of the coaster, inside of the track, but I think it works pretty well in the end. It's probably the best I could do. There were a few different options, but this one was going to be the most flexible because obviously this Dark Ride is actually, pretty flexible as well. It goes up, it goes down, it has bank turns and things like that. So I had to make sure that I had some kind of way of making this track look like a proper Dark Ride track. While it's still being able to be flexible enough, basically, to accommodate for all these different types of elements. Now, in the meantime, you can see me building some more of Rainbow Road. Now, I decided to start using the wooden track as the base for some of the more flexible parts of the ride. It just makes it a little bit easier, and it makes it more smooth as well in the end. Because otherwise I'm gonna have to build with the custom scenery blocks, like the slopes and things like that. It's not gonna look very smooth and it's gonna glitch quite a bit. But if we use this wooden track instead, it is not going to be too bad actually. So I'm quite happy how that turned out. And of course, for the Rainbow Road, it was really quite easy to actually make all the colors for that. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. Now, the Rainbow Road portion is probably the least detailed of all the portions that we have inside of this ride right now. But I think that's okay, because it's supposed to be a slightly faster, very colorful, with a lot of lights that are definitely going to be taking your attention away from the scenery itself, basically. Now, of course, I am trying to make this look as realistic as I can, so I am adding some support here, and in the future I also add some kind of evacuation path and stuff like that from this bank turn, basically. Just because otherwise that would be a corner that's not very detailed. So I just want to make sure that I touch upon that as well. Just make sure that it didn't look too empty. Now, for the background for the entire Rainbow Road section, I'm just going with a black wall, basically. And what I'm imagining is that there are probably going to be some kind of stars on that wall as well. But I can't really do that with CISO, because it would really be just such a small detail. Probably just a single pixel, really. So yeah, that's kind of the idea for how this entire Rainbow Road section is going to be themed. So, besides the Rainbow Road section, we're going to be finishing up the Haunted House section, the Luigi's Mansion section, basically, if you will, and the ski slope section. So we're going to have to theme that a lot more, obviously, because right now, especially for the ski slope, I only have the track in there so far. So we're going to be decorating that with some pine trees and things like that. And of course, the entrance to the Haunted Mansion itself is going to represent some kind of dilapidated house, which just happens to stand inside of the ski area, which I think fits really quite well in the end. So yeah, just wait for a minute and you'll see that up here in just a little bit. Now, in the meantime, I'm just making sure that all the track looks, smooth and stuff like that. But I think I got it down pretty well right now. In the end, there are some things that I have to change about the track. Like some of the timings aren't quite correct, or at least not quite as tight as I would like them to be. And one really big factor that I found in that is that obviously the amount of peeps that are inside of a vehicle has a pretty big impact on how fast the vehicle is actually going. So for this dark ride to actually be synced up to each other and actually be competing each other properly, you basically want the same amount of peeps inside of each vehicle on both sides basically. Because otherwise, the one with the beeps in it, I think, is gonna win, but I'm not completely certain about that, to be honest. I would have to check that. But yeah, that's basically what I'm doing. Now, in the last episode, in the comments, I got a suggestion for like an underwater area, and I really quite like that because I personally always like the the circuits in the in Mario Kart where you actually do go in the water. I can't remember the name of that certain track, but there is a track in Mario Kart 8. I think it's pretty fun. You basically go through this dolphin island and then suddenly go underwater and stuff like that. I think that's pretty fun, so I definitely drew some inspiration from that, which is basically the section that's going to happen right after the Rainbow Road section. So this is going to be a pretty large section, to be honest, a pretty large part of the ride. But it's also going to be very interesting, because at this point, one of the two sides is actually going to take a really small little shortcut, which I think is a really fun way to actually sync the rides back up again, by giving one of them a shorter path to go, basically. And it's just a really fun little gimmick, I think a pretty unexpected little bit when you're actually riding it, both for both sides of the track, basically, because one is trying to win, and is in front, but suddenly the other guy is gonna take a shortcut and might actually win, because now suddenly they're gonna arrive at the finish at the very same time. That's basically how I timed it right now. So it's gonna be a photo finish basically all the time, which I think is probably really quite fun. When you're building something like this in real life, you probably use some of the computers to actually randomize just a little bit which of the vehicles is gonna win each time. That's usually what they like to do when you are talking about something that is actually dueling. Now, for dueling roller coasters, I don't think you really have to control it that much, because there are just way too many variables that actually, affect which one is going to win. For wooden roller coasters, for example, I know for Joris and the Draak in the Efteling, they might actually, every now and then, they just make sure and check which of the two trains is most likely to win all the time. Because if there is a very large difference in terms of the amount of times one of them wins, they can actually change the speed of the lift hill to kind of account for that, I believe. Or they dispatch it just a little bit earlier or something like that, just to make sure that that levels out just a little bit again, so the chances are as equal as they can be for both of the trains, which is really quite interesting. It's really quite fun. I might be explaining that incorrectly, but I know you can find some details about that online if you look for it. So if you're interested in that, definitely take a look into that. Also, where you might find people who know more about that is on my Discord server. If you aren't on my Discord server already, definitely make sure to check it out. You can find the link in the description below, and it is definitely... well, it's growing right now. It's not very busy right now, but it's definitely a fun place, I think. And we have some people who are relatively active there. People who are very knowledgeable about rides, roller coasters, dark rides, stuff like that. So if you're interested in that sort of stuff, definitely make sure to join our Discord if you want. Now, I have something else that I just released on my Discord upon request by some people, and I'll probably announce that in the next video properly. But if you want to have a look at what I did, you might want to check out the Discord as well, because there you will already find a clue of what might be coming in the very near future. But yeah, not gonna talk more about that. Oh, by the way, talking of Haunted Mansions, it is October, and that probably means that I might want to do something with Halloween. Now, one very big wish of me is to to try and dress up Magic Towers for the Halloween season. However, I'm not quite sure yet how I would actually tackle that. Because obviously, if we are going to be dressing it up for Halloween, then after Halloween I have to make sure that all the decorations are going to be removed as well. But it might be a nice chance to actually go around the park, fix a few things up, and in the meantime add these decorations. And maybe even some parade floats or something like that. I looked at it yesterday basically, but I couldn't really see yet how I would actually make all of that work. But yeah, that's something that I really want to do. However, I'm not quite sure if I am going to be having the time to actually do something like that this month. As you know, as I've already told a few times, I very recently graduated, and as of yesterday, I got myself a job, which I'm very happy about. It's been quite a journey to find a job, and I'm very glad that in these very weird times I've been able to find myself a job that I'll probably have a lot of fun with. But yeah, that is gonna probably affect again how I upload my videos just a little bit. I'm not quite sure yet how much energy that's gonna be taking. That job is what I mean by that. But yeah, you'll just have to see how that is going to turn out. But that just might mean that I might not be able to do weekly uploads again. But yeah, that's probably understandable. I mean, so far I've been been in this very weird position where I basically had quite a lot of time to actually work on these videos. But that's definitely not the new normal. That's definitely not the normal. I was about to say new normal, but yeah, that's not what I meant. All right, so yeah, here I'm building the underwater section. Let's talk a bit more about that. So here you can see them taking basically 2 turns, and the right track is going to be going over the track itself, while the left track can be found going over one of those speed up paths, and by doing so they're able to take a shortcut. And this is pretty common in Mario Kart itself. You often have some shortcuts along the route, but usually they require you to actually touch some kind of a boost, either using the speed boost item, the mushroom of course, or using a speed boost pad that you can find on the floor. Because otherwise you're not gonna, it's only going to slow down, it's only going to slow you down, that shortcut basically. So yeah, I'm kind of applying that same idea here, just to make sure that the left track can actually take this very small shortcut, which in the end is gonna just help sync up the vehicles, but it's gonna make for really awesome interaction as well in the meantime. So yeah, you'll see that at the end how that actually turns out. I think it's gonna be pretty neat. So you can see that after the Rainbow Road, you go into this island, well, a very short, very brief island section basically. You do slow down a bit, because that really gets you the chance to see just how close the other vehicle is, and using these brakes there also just make sure that the vehicles are going to be very close to each other for a brief second, just to, you know, make it a little bit more intense. So yeah, that's going to be really quite fun. So, let's see, what else can I talk about? So yeah, after that island section, you just dive down into the underwater section. And what I'm imagining for this transition from, like, being above water to underwater, I think something that you would probably do in real life, or at least an effect that I would personally try to apply, is just filling that room up with a little bit of a haze. Just a little bit of smoke, basically. A little bit of fog inside of the room. And then you can use something like a blue laser, which just projects basically a plane right at the edge of where the water meets the sand, basically. And that's basically, then you go through this curtain of blue, and that really would indicate that you are going underwater. That's probably how I would do it in real life if I were to make such a transition, basically. And you will see that being done at some rides. I know that, for example, the dinosaur or Countdown to Extinction ride at Animal Kingdom at Walt Disney World uses a laser tunnel basically to signify the time travel that you go through, which is a really neat effect. It's really quite simple to apply, but it definitely really helps to make it a bit more immersive and give this pretty mind-boggling effect. And you can use that for a lot of things. Now, one thing to keep in mind with lasers, however, is that you really want to prevent from shining them into people their eyes. So that is a little bit of an issue sometimes. Basically, if you can directly shine into the iris with a laser, there is a chance that you may actually just make someone blind with that. So that's always something that you have to be careful with. And that's also why when you buy a laser or something like that, there are going to be large, giant warning stickers on that as well. So yeah, there's just a little bit of a little bit of detail about show lighting if you wanted to know that on special effects. So yeah, for the inner water section, I'm just trying to mimic some of the inner sea vegetation. It's going to be pretty colorful. Just really trying to mimic what I see from images of underwater sections in games, basically. Most importantly, of course, Mario Kart, which this ride is mostly inspired by. Now, with that said, most of the ride is currently finished. I have all the areas completed. There is only a small section at the start of the ride that I still have to finish, but for now I'm just gonna make sure that I make a little backstage section here for the underwater section, just to make sure that there might be some access to some of the show lighting stuff like that from there. So you'll see some ladders going up, you'll see some walkways just above, just to make sure that maintenance would be able to switch out a light bulb or show lighting fixture or something. Just in case that might be needed. And that is something that you will usually see at dark rides as well. Usually the show lighting will be easily accessible, or at least as much as possible, because it's going to save a lot of time, and especially save a lot of downtime if you really want to make sure that your ride keeps running all the time, basically. Now, for the entrance, I'm just gonna add another stand for the audience, basically, or the supposed audience. There's not actually going to be an audience sitting there, but it's a nice decoration for this kind of track, basically. Now, obviously, I also want to make sure that there are some emergency exits all around, and I think I have that pretty well covered. There are about 4 doors all around the building, not including the main entrance. Or is it 5? I can't remember. No, I think it's 4. So yeah, I have like 4 doors all around the show building. I think that's pretty good for the size of this ride. Probably gonna provide a lot of fast routes to get out of this building, just in case something like a fire occurs. Because that's really the only time when it is extremely important that you can clear the building very, very quickly. In other cases where a ride just breaks down, you can take a little longer just to clear the building. But obviously when there's a fire, you just want to make sure that people get out of there as fast as possible. So yeah, I'm just theming this little hill here to the typical Magic Kingdom style landscaping. Putting some fire flowers on there as well, just like I did on the other side. Or at least I tried to make fire flowers, but they didn't really work. So I ended up going with some very simple geometrical trees instead, while still making them look natural, basically. That's basically the idea that I had for that. So yeah, that's the underwater section at least completely done now. I think that's definitely one of the nicest areas. I think my favorite areas are the underwater section and the ski slope. I think those are definitely the most fun and most creative, I think. As for most iconic, I really like the desert temple area with the enemies that I got there. Represented in a very simple manner, basically. And the hills right at the top, right at the start, I quite like those as well. They are very iconic, obviously. So I'm pretty happy with how those things turned out. So yeah, that's probably like my favorite things about this dark ride. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, especially since this is custom scenery, which I usually don't really do that much. I really only do that for these kind of challenges. Because it really just takes too much time to actually build an entire park with it. So yeah, that's also why I chose to go with no custom scenery for most of my other projects. But every now and then I will feel like, getting a bit more detail. So yeah, Open Roller Coaster Tycoon actually got this update where you can basically super zoom. And what I've noticed that when building this dark ride, I basically was on 2x zoom the entire time while building this. Like, at some point I zoomed back into like the default level that you would be at with vanilla RC2, And I was honestly quite confused by how small everything was. It was like, oh dang, I would not have been able to get that much detail inside of this ride if it weren't for this double zoom. It's definitely a lifesaver. So I'm really happy that that is now in the game. If you want to try that out for yourself as well, you just have to make sure that your graphics engine is set to OpenGL. You can do that in the OpenRC2 settings, and that will allow you to just zoom in further than the normal level. And it looks really quite nice. It's really nice for looking at details. I've just found myself looking at a zoomed in park way too much, basically. It's really quite good. Now, if you have an Intel graphics chip, there may be some issues with the colors with OpenGL currently, but I know that the developers are looking into that right now. So yeah, hopefully then in the near future you will actually be able to try this out as well. Just make sure to check it out, because it might actually work on your PC. So yeah, definitely give that a shot. OpenGL used to not be very stable. It is still listed as an experimental feature, but in all honesty, I've been using it for quite a while now, and it is, in my experience, it seems faster than the software rendering. Well, it's completely stable. I haven't had it crashing on me or something like that. And it actually does a lot less flickering, which is really quite nice as well, because when you place objects inside of each other and something moving goes along that, you'll usually see a lot of flickering. With OpenGL, you get a lot less of that, while still maintaining what something looks like inside of software rendering as well. So there aren't that many of differences, basically. So yeah, I definitely recommend trying that out if you want to, especially now with the zoom feature as well. Now, last but not least, I had to hide the track as well. And this was a bit of an issue, because initially I used the crooked house to hide the track, because that is what I would have used in vanilla RC2. However, with OpenRC2 you also have these unknown ride types, and that was actually a lifesaver, because on the crooked house ride you don't get the option to sync rides, basically, and that was a problem because I did actually need that feature. So yeah, I ended up going with one of the unknown ride types instead, and that did actually have that feature, which actually allowed me to sync this entire thing up. There was one issue, however, and that is with the unknown type. The speed with which the boosters work was actually different. So I actually had to go in and change the boosters, or the launch sections, basically, all over again, because the values for the launch was different, and it just made the entire ride out of sync. So that was a bit of a headache. But in the end I got it to work, and I'm really quite happy with the results. It's just extremely satisfying to see these vehicles go through. There are like, per track, there are like 8 vehicles on the track. So it looks really busy, it's really awesome, there's a lot of movement. And seeing peeps actually ride it is super duper fun. So yeah, I changed some of the car vehicles to mimic some of the other characters inside of Mario Kart as well. So we have Mario, we have Peach, we have Yoshi, we have Luigi, we have wait, already said Peach. We have Waluigi, of course. Who else? Yeah, I think that's about it. There might be more. I can't remember. Anyways, that's about it for this episode for today. I hope I can be back with Magic Towers very soon. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Have a nice day, and I'll see you when I want to see you. Bye bye.